I must say that events in the last 6 months or so is actually not helping because energy prices have gone up so much that many countries are looking for cheaper form of energy. So a lot more going for coal, for example. And also because there's such inflation and COVID has actually exhausted the budgets of many governments. Many governments are having problem discussing such issues like, carbon tax or moving to more expensive form of energy with their people. There's just no appetite. In fact, we see that actually more governments are moving towards more populist kind of decision. So I'm very frank with you. We are accountable for 0.1% of world's carbon emission, but actually we get hit by the 99.9% because we are such a small island, right? So what the rest of the countries do actually has a major impact on us. Despite that, there are some framework that we have agreed under various COP sessions. Paris Agreement, for example, talk about us reporting on our carbon emission. So there's certain obligation and accountability that the countries have to the UN framework. So we need to submit our account, we have to show the kind of progress we are making, and we hope that our people, we have very, very capable people that is heading and that's driving this. They are in National Climate Change Secretariat, they're in MFA, they're in various parts of the government. They will be helping us to keep a close watch on what others are doing and holding countries accountable. So we are going in a very turbulent time. And for Singapore, we will try as much as possible to keep this on target, but we just have to keep doing it. We just have to, really just hunker down, look at our own plans, and move as quickly as we can. Although our top line is this number of net zero, whether it is 2050 or so, is something that we can discuss. But I can assure you, if you look at Green Plan carefully, since its launch in 2021, second edition, we have seen so many movements in MTI, in energy, and MOT. Every ministries are running as quickly as they can. And I think that's the kind of confidence I like Singaporeans to have, that we are a country that usually would deliver what we promise. And if we are not able to promise, we won't. So we don't just make empty promises. We focus very much on execution. And once we make that promise, we will work very hard to deliver it.
Yeah, so Minister talked about the transparency reports. That's a really good place to find out how Singapore has been making progress. And we've submitted 4 biennial update reports so far, starting from 2014, every 2 years. And if you look at the reports, actually it shows it's a report card, basically, that we submit to the UN. It gets scrutinized by other countries. They hold us accountable, and likewise, we also hold them accountable. So that's a really good place to start. If any of you are keen, go and download the reports from NCCS website. And the 5th one is due this year, 2022. So Biennial Update Report 5. And I can tell you something, Singapore is one of the top 3 countries that submits our Biennial Update Reports, which is really great. But in 2024, the new Paris Agreement Enhanced Transparency Framework will require a biennial transparency report. Anyway, it's a bit complicated. But anyway, it's a lot higher in terms of the criteria. The reporting structure is a lot more stringent. And I think the worry is that even if Singapore submits, other countries actually have very low the institutional capacity is quite low in many developing countries. So how can we help them also? How can we assist build capacity? I think MFA is running quite a number of Singapore cooperation programs to try and help and share our experiences with transparency reporting, because it helps with accountability.
And maybe complementing that a little bit, Singapore is actually already now doing much more, and it increases its sphere of influence, because let's not forget, Singapore is a major hub. It's a major hub for trade, it's a major hub for financial institutions, and so on and so forth. So, for example, many companies from outside of Singapore might list here at a local stock exchange because they want to raise capital. And by way of implementing rules here, that instills actually some discipline on the companies that are listed in Singapore. Or in my industry, the boss of the local central bank, it's a gentleman by the name of Ravi Menon, he is right now actually leading a group of global central banks called NGFS, weird acronym. But if the gentleman from Singapore, Ravi Menon, is leading this, it tells you actually that the reputation of Singapore is extremely good internationally. And because Singapore is such an important hub, we can actually also assert influence beyond our borders.